What you're looking at is a frame and a floor to a 56 Chevy 210 two-door wagon. Oh boy. So if you haven't seen my videos before, 56 Chevy two-door wagon, and this thing has nothing left to the bottom of the car. It looks kind of scary and daunting. Let's get some light. There we go. But you can see, the bottom of this car was pretty bad. Now, the lower quarters are holy, but they're still there. Same with the rockers. And this car was an original car. Someone's done work to the doors already, probably 20, 30 years ago. Same as the one back corner back there. The frame had been restored. Of course, we sanded it down. We painted it again. But what we're working on, you can see where there's a weld across there. And we had to add an inch all the way up to there. And basically, the new floor has a nice reveal bent like so that sits right up against the floor. You clamp them together. You gotta have holes in one panel and you plug weld them through. But that was just rotten. And that side, same thing, was rotten. Now you can see this one's got a bit of a corner where the other one didn't here. That's because I made this way too big. So when our floor comes and sits against it, we can mark it, lift it up and cut the excess off. And then we'll clamp it and drill it. And that'll give us, it'll look as close to the factory as we can get it. We're not too worried about it being perfectly factory, but you still want to do a half-decent job. So we started with these. Now the next thing we're going to make, if you look here, you'll see this little J and how the metal's made. So that little J that comes up, this should have that. Let me show you this side. See, it's still got most of it. So what we're going to do to correct that, we're going to put a line up here somewhere, and then we're going to mark a measurement down to the floor of the J, and then we're going to cut from where it's bad. And the reason we're doing the line, when we remake our piece, when you bend it, if it goes a little funny, we'll know the height from our imaginary line down. So we'll make our piece a little big, we'll slide it up and down till the measurement's good, and then we'll cut it across, butt weld it in. Now this side's really flat. I might actually use my flange tool to put a flange, and we might do a lap weld into a flange so it's flat. And as long as we run the flange the right way, moisture would just leak out. It wouldn't be a problem, and it does make it stronger. Could you butt weld that? Well, absolutely, but look where it is. Nobody's going to see it. Let's go for strength. It's kind of what we're thinking. But basically, our new floor will get welded all the way around here and all the way across this. And eventually, it'll get welded to the new rockers. But we're not going to worry about that. We're changing them later when the body's back on the frame. So basically, those and those got to be repaired. Now, as for the front, there's a plate. You can see this plate here that comes down. Now, there's somebody welded a little patch in the floor, and that's just a bunch of welds, so we're going to grind that off. But this plate is basically the structure of this corner. That's like your reinforcement piece. So we want to weld the front of the floor to this. Well, here's one that don't have the weld on it over here. You can see how that goes way up into the car. So we can weld to those. Now we can also weld to this, but as far as the toe pans go, we're going to have to fix those. Everything that's bad has been cut. You can probably buy these somewhere, but I'm just going to make that. Here we just need a little piece, and somewhere in that cart we have this little piece and we have this piece. Now when we make this piece, we're not going to butt weld it here. We're going to take that little strip of metal. There's a little strip of metal here. So we're gonna grind the top through the welds, and we're gonna pull that off and clean up that piece, and we're gonna make our new one longer so that it can be plug welded in, and then here we'll butt weld. You get the idea. So those pieces, even though they were holdy and not very nice, we retained both of them so we can use them as templates. We took the backing plates off of here. This is all super thick and super solid. So that little bit of pitting here and here, and then there's a mark here of some sort. It looks like it was cut. But we're gonna just weld those back shut. This is all fine. Now this side, so that's our template. It's not a very good one, but it is what it is. And this is the rest. And you can see how the bottom edge was. You can see why I'm changing this big piece. The pitting's deep. And we could have come up to this higher ridge, but then this whole edge here must have held some water in the carpet or whatever, and it's all pitted. So we went to the top edge. So basically, we're gonna have to replicate this. We're gonna have to put this bend in it. And that's why I cut this down. Here we want it flat. We don't want to bend across here. Because you can see how they have that real elaborate, and this is all super duper solid. No pitting inside or out. So we'll put this in, we'll bend it and bend it with our brake. Down here, this piece basically goes down here. Now this piece I should be able to just notch a little chunk out of a piece of wood. We'll set it in and we'll knock that down. It won't be perfect, but we'll try to get it down enough that it'll meet up with where we want it to meet up. Anyway, might show you how this panel is made when we get there. Now again, on this side, we got that little strip of metal here we're gonna have to peel off so it can be butted across and spot welded like the factory down here. Now of course they used an electric weld where two things touch each other and shock through. We're gonna drill holes and then plug weld with our MIG, because that's just what I do. Now here's something interesting. This comes off of the front body mount. There was a pin weld right here, one that barely caught, and in this mess here there was something. Otherwise that wasn't welded at all. So people talk about how great the factory did stuff. Now the funny thing about that, this side here, I can't move at all, and it's super solid. Yeah, it's funny how they weren't very consistent with how they did things in the 50s. In case you didn't know, this is interesting. Got a nail, and it's basically a spiral nail, a little head on it, and it's in this little hole. That's not what somebody put there. That's what GM put there. Something to do with the carpet or underpad. Here's another one stuck in the tar. There's another one over here. Oh, this one moves. There we go. So we're going to weld those holes shut. We're not putting nails back in whatever carpet goes in here. So I just wanted to show you kind of what we've been doing. So the reason why we're doing what we're doing, the floor's got to weld to this edge. That's why we rebuilt that. We're going to put those in so we can also weld that to the floor. And it can be welded there, welded across here. And then when our new pan's in, this gets welded all the way across. Now at some point after that, we're gonna build a new floor back there when it's already on the car. So let me get out of this cave, if you will. So basically what you missed since my last video to this video, because I know it was probably a week or so ago, we have put the body, after cutting the floor, back down on the car. And everything fit. And the reason we left, we tried to leave some of it, well, we had to leave this plate, but we left some of this, and we have a little bit at the back, But we tried to keep that J really intact because that side was pretty good. And even though those rockers are going to be deleted and replaced, we didn't want to cut them off right away. Two reasons. One, they keep the car more solid. Now we braced it anyway because obviously those rockers are but that gave us the edge. So when we test fit this down on the frame, we could make sure that whole edge would match up to the edge of the inner rocker. Now, even though this is a floor, it comes with the inner rocker attached, and all the bracing is underneath. So if you can buy the stamp pan and all the parts, have at her, but if you get it this way, it's all one. And I'll tell you what, these things here in Ontario, Canada were $300-400 a piece or some ridiculous thing. And I mean, they don't look like much. I don't know why they were so expensive, but they were. Now you can buy end pieces to repair all the cross framing under your floor, but if your floor is bad and you're cutting it all out anyway, this has complete bracing running across underneath the whole car. Now, we basically bolted the floor down, measured from the body mount hole right to this corner, and then we measured right from here, I think, to the lower edge and the upper edge. We measured 2-3 places, and then we went and did it over there. The floor bolted down beautifully and perfectly center. We also came back here. Can't remember where the brace is under here. But back here we measured from the frame out just to this edge. Now in shipping this has been moved around a little bit, but it seemed to be really close. And then it didn't give us much choice. These two holes were the only holes we had to fight with. Now I didn't have to bore them out or hone them out like I thought I would, because you always find something in an aftermarket thing that don't fit. And it could even be that your frame is a little bit weird, because you know it's a 70-some-year-old car, and the way they welded stuff back in the 50s was not amazing. Now, granted, it's welded real solid, way better than that 70s Corvette we were working on. But I mean, you know, when you weld metal together, things move and shift and warp, and you know, it is what it is. But this frame was so nice, and this floor was pretty decent. It bolted right on. The only thing that was tight were these last two. I had to kind of shimmy the floor a little bit. And when we rolled the frame under the car, this line here lined up to where it attaches. We were happy. We measured the other side where the holes were and the little bit of metal that was there. Again, we were happy. All around the front, we were very happy. So those templates that I cut out of the toe boards, they were in there when I test fitted it on. Before cutting them out, I wanted to make sure that this was all nice and tight. Because if not, you can always make your new panels to suit. You can always loosen this up and move it around if you have to. Now the only thing that didn't match, this sat about 3/8 of an inch down, but it's a little bit movable. So once we have the body sitting down, we might have to throw a chunk of wood under the tunnel and a jack, just kind of jack it up into place, make our holes welded in. So all in all, this is the Dynacorn one-piece 55 to 57 floor. I'm going to give it an A+. As far as I'm concerned, it works. We have a very original solid car that hasn't been moved around, and it seemed to match the floor. Anyway, we still got quite a bit of work to do. Our lower quarters are okay. The wheel arches are good. There's a little dent right here. From here up, the quarters are super straight. We've checked it with a few flexible straight edges. We are going to have to replace this piece down here, and probably a little bit lower on the other side, but when we cut out those inner panels, we'll actually be able to see more of the back side. And the funny thing about that, when you're working on stuff, sometimes you're guessing, but on this car we'll be able to see. Now, even though this is all gone, when I reach in behind here, it's not all pitted. where that side is all there, but if you see that rusty stain in the corner, it's all pitted in behind. And that's why we're going to go up higher on that side. Anyway, hopefully this is helpful to somebody. And if you watch a few videos, if you're a DIY guy, you can totally do this. It seems like a big job. And I mean, those floors are expensive. Depending whether you're in Canada or the States or whatever, what, $1,000 all the way up to $2,000. But even at $2,000 on the high side, that's what I saw listed on the internet. Now I think my cost up here was about $1,400 or something like that, and then I got a bit of a discount. But even at $2,000, you're not buying this pan and that pan and then replacing back there and fixing all the cross braces. Like, you wouldn't believe what that stuff cost. And it may not add up to the price of the floor, but it would be really, really close. So this way you've got what's going to look like a brand new car when it's in the air on the hoist. The only thing we're going to have to clean up is the inner, well, they're not tubs, but there's plates in behind the fenders on these cars. We're going to have to basically sandblast those up, treat them, undercoat them to make them look good. We'll do the same with the inside of the front fenders. But the bottom of this car won't get sprayed with undercoat. We're probably just going to paint it, and it'll be nice. You know, this is going to be a fair weather driver, right? So you want to put it up on a hoist, you want it to look, I mean, if the bottom of the frame looks as good as this top, and then the floor is all painted, this is going to be a really, really nice car underneath, which is just part of the fun. And down the road, this thing will end up with a good paint job and whatnot. So why not do the best you can? Anyway, thanks for watching. Cheers.